Why do all the CNN anchors have such smug, cocky looks on their face almost all the time? And in this video, it's no different, despite the fact that Jim Jordan lays out clearly, logically, and pretty simply why there's a reason to pass this bill in the House without even getting to all the details, without overwhelming at least me and you guys with a bunch of different convolutions and details and specifics. He lays it out smoothly, and yet where is she? Will not lose the smugness. It's Sean Daniel here, and if you think red suit jackets should be illegal, consider hitting that like button. I don't know who the CNN stylist is, but you're fired.
Joining us to discuss the fate of President Trump's domestic policy agenda is Republican Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. He is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and a founding member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
You bet. Good to be with you, Casey.
I do want to ask you, in that context, it is Freedom Caucus members who are very concerned about this bill. I'm old enough to remember when, if there was a bill on the floor that added this much to our debt and deficit, I cannot imagine you would have been happy about it in those years. And yet, you have been approaching this a little bit differently. What is your message to your colleagues in that group right now?
Look, we all wish it'd save more money, but you know this is a good bill, and I tell people all the time, you know it's a good piece of legislation because every single Democrat hates it. And the reason they hate it is because this bill actually empowers Americans. It empowers families. It cuts their taxes. It keeps their taxes low. It says to the hardworking people who are working and getting tips, we're not going to tax those tips. It says to parents, we're going to give you school choice in our tax code. It says the border that's now secure under President Trump, we're going to allocate resources to keep it secure. And maybe most importantly, or as importantly, is it says to hardworking American families who are paying for all this government, for people who are getting a benefit in the welfare system, if they're able-bodied adults, guess what? Now, from now on, they're going to have to work. So I think it's good for all those common sense, fundamental Republican principles. That's why the Democrats don't like it. While it doesn't cut enough spending, I get it, but we got small majorities, and this is probably as good as it's going to get. So I am certainly for this piece of legislation.
So do you think that your colleagues, like Chip Roy, like Ralph Norman, those are down at the White House, should they just get over it and get on with it?
I think, well, look, they're good guys, they're friends of mine, and I understand their concerns, but it was a 50-50 vote in the Senate. The Vice President of the United States had to come break the tie. 2 of the 3 votes on the Republican side who were against it were moderates. It was Tillis and Collins. Do you think it's going to get more conservative? I just don't know how that happens. And you step back and look. Senator Johnson voted for it. Senator Lee voted for it. Senator Lummis voted for it. Senator Scott voted for it. All kinds of conservative senators supported this legislation. Actually, senators we meet with every single week we're in session. We work with these guys. Good enough for them, but somehow we're not going to vote for this. So I think that's important. And the other thing I would say is this: in politics, it's just like in sports. Momentum matters. Right now, our party, I think you look at the border being secure under President Trump, you look at the successful mission in Iran, you look at what happened at NATO with getting the other countries and NATO countries to kick in more of their GDP towards the defense. I mean, we're on a roll. Things are moving our direction. And now we're going to stop a bill that cuts taxes as Republicans? I just don't think that makes sense. So I hope we get this done today and we move on and to the next issues and the next things we need to tackle, the things we told the American people that we were going to do.
Right now, there are 10 holdouts in the House Republicans that are not willing to vote yes so far on this bill. Andy Biggs, Lauren Boebert, Andrew Clyde, Dunn from Florida, Andy Harris, Dan Muser, Andy Ogle, Scott Perry, Chip Roy, and Thomas Massie. And some of them, like Jim Jordan said, are at the White House, I don't know, doing what? Trying to get a better version of the bill? If they try to get a new version of the bill, get it changed, that's so much more long processes. We don't even know if it'll get passed. Then there's more negotiations. So Jim's making a good point here.
Sir, what's your least favorite part of this bill?
Well, I mean, there's the subsidies. I get those. I wish, and President Trump doesn't like those either. But when you got a 3-seat majority in the Senate, you got a handful of seats that put you in the majority in the House. You got to kind of give and take, and that's just how it is. I said this a couple of years ago in a speech on the floor. Any differences that exist in the Republican Party are pretty darn small compared to the differences between us and the left, the radical left, which now controls the other party. So we had better figure out a way to stick together and get some things done that are consistent with what we told the voters we were going to do. I think that's the most important thing. I think this bill does it. I think we should support it.
Why do you think it's so unpopular? It's dramatically unpopular when you look at the partisan split in the country. We're basically a 50-50 country. This is like underwater by either 20 or 30 points, depending on what poll you read.
I will tell you what will be unpopular is if we allow taxes to go up on the families we get the privilege of representing. Hardworking American families don't want to be paying more to the government that sends their money to, all kinds of ridiculous things that DOJ uncovered. I don't think they want their taxes going up. So I tell you, that will be unpopular. Right now, there's polling out there that says whatever. What I know is I want to make sure parents get a say in where their kids go to school. School choice is an important element, something that fundamental principle of our party. I want to make sure their taxes don't go up. I want to make sure able-bodied people getting your money, your viewers' money in our welfare system are going to have to work in order to receive that benefit and that money. And I want to make sure our border stays secure, which is something that our committee, specifically the Judiciary Committee, worked hard on in this legislation.
To play devil's advocate for a moment on the Medicaid piece, I mean, I hear what you're saying about work requirements. Certainly, Scott Jennings has sat at this table and made all kinds of arguments along those lines as well. Yeah. But I'm interested to know if you've heard from hospitals in your district, from people who, at the end of the day, somebody walks into an emergency room without Medicaid, somebody is paying that bill, and it's going to be either the hospital or the other taxpayers.
But Casey, you're saying that, if someone has to do a work requirement, we're not kicking anyone off Medicaid. We're just saying if you're going to get it, you have to go to work.
I'm just saying those people still get sick. Someone still has to pay for it.
Well, yeah, but if they're on Medicaid, they're not going to be cut off. The argument we're hearing from the left is we're kicking people off. That's just not the case. We're saying if you're on and you're able-bodied, you should work. You work. I work. The folks I represent work. I mean, that's just how life is. That's how the good Lord made it. Why is that so dramatic or so radical? That doesn't seem radical. The radical position is, we're going to give you something free, and you're an able-bodied 35-year-old male, and you're not working. You got to be kidding me. So that's all this is, and yet the left says, we're kicking people off. That's just not accurate. But if they say that enough and you guys repeat it enough, maybe that influences the polling. What I know is the families I represent, I want to make sure their taxes don't go up. The hardworking people that I get the privilege of serving, I want to make sure their taxes don't go up, and this bill does that.
Why does the left always leave out details? They say everybody's going to be kicked off Medicaid. There's millions of people that are not going to have health care because the Republicans don't want to serve anybody. They don't care about poor people. But the reality is what Jim said. Which, how many of you guys agree with that? If you are able to work and function, you should not just be able to claim, please cover any medical expense I have, please Medicaid. If you have certain income restrictions and you don't earn enough money, you can still qualify for certain Medicaid things, especially that's paid for by your state. I know that's how it works in California. Not sure how it works in your guys' state. If you know, you can educate me down in the comments. But you see, Democrats, like the CNN lady, and like Hillary Clinton here on Twitter, Hillary Clinton, give me a break, come on, posts a graphic that says right in the middle that Trump's big bill strips health care away from 5% of Americans. No extra details whatsoever. Now, the funny thing is she also promoted something that's a positive. She said, gives ICE a larger budget than many militaries around the world. It's funny because a Democrat will take that and be like, we don't like that. But yet us Republicans were like, give ICE some more money, baby. Again, at the top, forces nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, the largest cut to the life-saving program ever by a factor of 4. No details whatsoever. Who do you guys believe? Do you believe Jim Jordan? Do you believe Hillary Clinton? I trust what Jim Jordan said. He has done a lot of good stuff throughout the years. We like Jim Jordan. But right now, there is this battle going on in the Republican Party. You got people like Thomas Massie, those other 10 people I mentioned, that are like, look, I'm sorry, Mr. President, we are not putting our name on this bill. And a lot of times, I would agree with Thomas Massie, but I don't know every stance he's taking right now, but the bill barely passed in the Senate, right? So do you want to change the bill, rechange the whole thing again, get it to go back through the Senate, maybe not even go through the Senate, have ICE miss out on budgeting things, have the bill not go through, and all those consequences continue to go on because the bill is not perfect? If you change it again, I don't see how it's going to go through the Senate and through the House again. But we have people like Elon Musk tweeting and really going after the president for this bill. He tweets this photo saying, "Liar, voted to increase America's debt by $5 billion." Took me a second, wasn't sure. It says, anyone who campaigned on the promise of reducing spending but continues to vote on the biggest debt ceiling increase in history will see their face on this poster in the primary next year. Is Elon going to start going after people without Trump's support next time there's elections? Is he going to try to use his power and his money and his influence? Who knows? It's Sean Daniel here. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, subscribing, or watching another one right here. I'll put another video of a CNN host or some liberal person getting manhandled by a Republican, and I'll see you in the next one.